My name is Carolyn P. Torres, and I am 28 years old. On the night of my 28th birthday, I sat alone in my apartment with a microwave burrito and a can of beer I didn't even finish. I wasn't in the mood to celebrate. That morning, I'd called my parents, casual on purpose, trying not to sound like someone begging to be remembered, and asked if we were still doing something: dinner, drinks, even coffee. My mom sounded like I'd just reminded her she had a dentist appointment. She said she'd check with Amanda and get back to me. She never did. By evening, I stopped checking my phone. I told myself I was too old to care, but that was a lie I'd gotten good at telling. A part of me kept waiting for a call, a text, anything that proved I still existed in their minds as more than an afterthought. I tried to distract myself, cleaned the kitchen, turned on a show, scrolled until my eyes hurt, but the quiet kept expanding, and every minute felt like proof. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah, a coworker who had a strange talent for being in the right place at the wrong time. No caption at first, just a photo. I opened it and felt something hard snap in my chest before my brain could even catch up. It was my entire family, my parents, my sister Amanda, and my younger brother Eric, all squeezed into a velvet booth at an upscale restaurant like they were starring in a commercial for closeness. Candlelight. White tablecloth, a cake set in the middle like a centerpiece. Their faces were bright with the kind of smiles people save for cameras, the kind that say, "Look how happy we are, look how together we are, look how proud we are." On my birthday, I had to zoom in on the cake to believe what I was seeing. Written in perfect smug cursive, the icing read, "To the one who will actually succeed." The words sat there like a verdict, like a joke. Everyone in that booth understood. Amanda was dead center in a designer dress, smiling like she'd just won something. My mom held her wine glass up like it was a toast to the daughter who mattered. My dad, who always made a big show of hating fancy places, wore a sport coat I'd never seen before. Even Eric looked cleaned up, hair combed, posture straight, like he'd been told to look presentable for the moment. They didn't forget my birthday. They actively chose to spend it celebrating her instead. I stared at the photo so long my screen dimmed and went dark. I tapped it awake and stared again, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. They didn't. The cake didn't say happy birthday to me. It didn't say family. It didn't even pretend to be neutral. It said what they'd always implied, just louder. Here's the part that made my stomach turn, the part that took the sting of the cake and turned it into something sharper. 3 months ago, Amanda made this grand gesture in front of everyone. She told the family she was saving our parents by paying off their mortgage. Big speech. Toasts. My parents cried. Amanda soaked it in like sunlight. What wasn't mentioned was that I paid the other half. $125,000 split down the middle. I drained my bonus. I dipped into my savings. I sold off stock I'd been holding for years. The kind you keep because you tell yourself it's for your future, for stability, for a life that's yours. I wired the money quietly and watched the confirmation email pop up like a receipt nobody would ever ask for. No speech, no toast, no thank you. I was just the quiet co-signer, the shadow standing behind the spotlight holding it steady. And now I was looking at a cake that crowned Amanda as the one who would actually succeed. Like I hadn't just helped keep a roof over our parents' heads. Like my sacrifice didn't count because it wasn't loud enough to impress them. I didn't call, I didn't rage, I didn't text the group chat and demand an explanation I already knew I wouldn't get. I sat very still in my apartment while the last bit of warmth from the burrito faded into rubber, and I let the truth settle in the space where hope had been. Then I opened my laptop. I logged into the mortgage account, the one Amanda never touched after her big lump sum transfer, because she liked the moment of heroism more than the boring responsibility afterward. The final installment was scheduled, $12,500 due Monday. Half of that was effectively mine too, because that's how we'd done it, split down the middle, even if the world only clapped for her. I canceled the auto payment. I didn't do it with shaking hands. I didn't do it with tears. I did it the way you close a door when you finally realize the draft is never going to stop. I didn't want revenge, not the messy kind. I wanted reality to hit them, clean and undeniable, the way that cake hit me. And then I waited, because I knew exactly how my family worked. They could ignore my birthday. They could ignore my existence. But they could never ignore a bill. That week, I lived in total silence from my family. No calls, no texts, not even a leftover cupcake delivered with a fake smile. It didn't feel personal, it felt casual, like I was a distant cousin no one liked enough to check on. The kind of absence you don't explain, because in their world, it's expected. I went to work, came home, cooked something decent for myself, and tried not to stare at my phone like it was going to magically fix what had been broken. Friday morning hit like a switch. At 6:52 a.m., my screen lit up with a missed call from Amanda, then another, then a text, short and sharp, like she was snapping her fingers at a waiter. Call me now. I let it sit. I made coffee slowly, watched the steam curl up like it was the only calm thing in the room. By 7:14, she was calling nonstop. By 7:15, I knew it had finally clicked. The final payment was due Monday, but the system had already thrown alerts, already sent emails, already exposed the gap she assumed I'd quietly fill. By 7:15 a.m., Amanda had called 4 times. I let each one ring out and watched the next text appear, exactly the one I'd been waiting for. Did you mess with the mortgage account? No greeting, no build-up, straight to the point. I didn't answer. A minute later, another one. The payment didn't go through. You said you'd handle this. What are you doing? You said, not asked, not can you. You said, like my role was a contract she could enforce just by believing in it hard enough. I turned off notifications and put the phone face down on the kitchen table. I made eggs. I took a shower. I opened the window and let the July air in. The calm I felt wasn't relief exactly. It was something cleaner, like I'd unclipped a leash I didn't realize I was wearing. When I checked my phone again, there were 7 missed calls. 3 from Amanda, 2 from my mom, 1 from my dad, and 1 from an unknown number that was probably Amanda using someone else's phone like she always did when she didn't want a call to be ignored. Then came the wall of texts. The one that made me stop and stare was this. You're being dramatic over a joke cake. Get over yourself. It didn't hurt. It confirmed. That cake wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a harmless line that came out wrong. It was planned. It was baked into the night on purpose. And in Amanda's mind, the problem wasn't what it said. The problem was that I noticed. At 8:11, she called again. I picked up this time, not because I felt obligated, but because I wanted to hear what kind of storm she thought would scare me back into place. She didn't start with a question. She started talking, loud and fast and panicked, as if volume could turn her entitlement into urgency. She said she'd already promised our parents everything was handled. She told them I was taking care of the last part because she was maxed out from the down payment and she'd already done the heavy lifting. She said they were getting emails about an incomplete mortgage payoff, that it was going to mess with their credit, that they were panicking. Then she said the part that made my whole body go still. You owe them this. I actually had to sit down. I reminded her I didn't owe anyone anything. I told her I covered half, not some token amount, not a nice little assist, half of the house, and nobody had ever said thank you. Nobody even acknowledged it. All I got was a front row seat to a cake that crowned her as the family's only success story. She tried to spin it, said it wasn't about money, said it was about not making the family look bad, said I was humiliating her after she went above and beyond. Then she asked, with that practiced sweetness she used like a blade, if this was about jealousy. I said maybe it was about being done. Then I hung up. Around noon, my mom called. I didn't pick up. Then my dad. I let that ring too. My mom left a voicemail, soft and rehearsed, like she'd written it down first. She said this wasn't the way to handle things, that it was family, and family doesn't let petty things destroy trust. Then she said Amanda had already done so much, and maybe I was struggling to find my way in life, but that didn't mean I had to take it out on her. That one actually made me laugh, a sharp little sound in my empty kitchen. Then came my dad's text. Not a call, just a cold line. This isn't how we raised you. That was the first time I felt anger all day. Because yes, it was. This was exactly how they raised me. To be useful, to be quiet, to hold the camera while Amanda took the bow, to be the backup plan, the second wallet, the one who quietly makes the problem go away, so no one has to look too closely. By evening, Amanda was in full meltdown mode. She sent a photo of the overdue notice, then a 5-paragraph essay about how I made her look like a fraud, how I betrayed her, how I was selfish. I didn't respond. I went out, bought myself a decent dinner, and watched a movie alone in my apartment. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the family disappointment. I felt like the only one with a clear head. But deep down, I knew Amanda wouldn't let this end with silence. Amanda was used to getting her way, and when she didn't, she made it everyone's problem. The next morning, just before 9, someone knocked on my door. Not a call, not a warning text, just a solid knock that didn't go away. I checked the peephole and saw Eric standing there holding 2 coffees like he thought this was going to be a friendly catch-up. I opened the door but didn't say anything. He handed me one of the coffees anyway and stepped inside like I'd invited him. He didn't waste time easing into it. He said Amanda was spiraling, that she'd been up half the night pacing our parents' living room, saying she couldn't believe I'd pulled something like this, that she was humiliated. He didn't sound angry. He sounded uncomfortable, like someone who'd been dragged into a mess that wasn't his and wanted out. He tried to soften it. He said maybe Amanda didn't mean to exclude me. Maybe the cake was just a joke that came out wrong. Maybe I'd made my point and now I could just send the payment so everyone could move on. He said it like peace was something you could buy back with a transfer and a smile. I asked him one question. When you saw that cake, did you think about me at all? He didn't answer. He said he didn't want to be in the middle, that he just came to see if we could smooth it over before Mom and Dad got more involved, that Amanda was already saying she'd have to pay the full thing now, and our parents were talking about dipping into their emergency fund because they thought I was having some kind of breakdown. I told him I wasn't having a breakdown. I told him I was done being the safety net nobody ever thanked. I told him I'd done my part, and Amanda could do hers. He nodded slowly, like he wanted to argue, but knew he didn't have anything to stand on. He left without finishing his coffee. By mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed with the family group chat. It was rare. Usually my parents preferred to keep things private, by which they meant silent when it came to me. The message started with, "We need to have a serious conversation." Then it slid straight into a revisionist version of everything that had happened. According to them, Amanda had paid the majority of the mortgage and I had simply helped. They said they appreciated my contribution, but felt disappointed that I was now using it as leverage. They said Amanda had carried the weight for the family and that I needed to stop disrupting everything over a personal issue. I didn't reply with words. I sent a screenshot of the exact $125,000 I wired to the mortgage company, dated and time-stamped. Then another screenshot of the canceled auto payment for the last $12,500. Then I sent one short message. Stop pretending this is about family. It's about control. Handle the rest yourselves. The chat went dead after that. Around 9 that night, Amanda called again. I didn't answer, but this time she left a voicemail. Her voice wasn't panicked anymore. It was cold. She said she was paying the final amount herself since apparently no one else could be relied on. She said she was tired of being attacked every time she tried to do something good. She said she was done talking to me permanently. It should have hit me. It didn't. She thought cutting me off was a punishment. It wasn't. It felt like freedom. Amanda paid the final $12,500 the next day. No message. Just a screenshot of the confirmation email sent at 6:04 in the morning, followed by one last line. Fixed it. You're welcome. By 6:05, I was blocked. I figured that was it. The closing credits. She rage paid the remainder, scrubbed me from her digital world, and now we could all go back to pretending we were just distant relatives who didn't talk much. It felt over. Clean. Then 3 days later, my parents showed up at my apartment. No warning, no call. I was on the couch eating leftover pasta when I heard the knock. I checked the peephole, half expecting a delivery. Instead, my dad stood there with his arms crossed, my mom behind him, holding her purse like she was walking into a courtroom. They didn't wait to be invited in. My dad stepped inside first, scanning the room like he was checking for damage. My mom followed with a tight smile and pulled a folded document from her bag. I thought it might be an apology or an invitation to talk. It wasn't. At the top it read, Family Settlement Understanding. Below that were neat paragraphs of legal-sounding language stating that Amanda had fulfilled all financial obligations toward the mortgage and that I was to formally acknowledge her full contribution and refrain from misrepresenting my personal role in the matter to other family members. They wanted me to sign something saying Amanda had done everything and I had been background noise. Worse, they wanted it in writing. I asked my dad if he was serious. He said this was just to keep the peace, that Amanda was still hurt, that I'd escalated things unnecessarily. Then he said something I won't forget. He said, "Maybe you're just not equipped to understand what real sacrifice looks like." I asked him if $125,000 looked like a lack of sacrifice. He looked away. My mom sighed and said, "It's not always about the money, Carolyn. Sometimes it's about grace." Grace. I told them to leave. As they got to the door, my dad said it low, like a warning. He said Amanda was considering legal options if I kept dragging her name through the mud, that what I was doing could be seen as slander, that I should think carefully about how far I wanted to take this. I told him if Amanda wanted lawyers, I'd happily send mine every receipt, every transfer, every timestamped transaction that proved exactly who paid what. I told him I'd enjoy it. They left without saying goodbye. That weekend, my phone started lighting up with messages from old classmates and people I hadn't heard from in years. Someone asked if I was okay. Another asked if it was true I'd been institutionalized. Someone else asked if I'd really been cut off by the family. Amanda hadn't gone silent. She'd gone strategic. She was telling people I'd had a breakdown, that I'd sabotaged the mortgage, that she had to step in at the last minute and fix everything because I'd become reckless. None of it was true. It didn't matter. She wasn't trying to convince me. She was trying to bury my side of the story before it ever got heard. And that's when I stopped trying to reason with any of them. Amanda wanted a version of the truth where I didn't exist. So I let her have it. After everything, the party photo, the canceled payment, the threats, and the quiet smear campaign, I expected to feel wrecked. I thought I'd be bitter, paranoid, maybe even ashamed. Instead, what came was silence. And then, strangely, peace. Amanda didn't contact me. She stayed blocked, and she made sure I stayed buried inside whatever version of the truth she was circulating. My parents went radio silent too. No calls, no guilt texts, no veiled warnings. Even Eric backed off. I think he finally understood that I wasn't going to be talked down or worn out anymore. I waited a week, then another. By the third, I realized I felt better than I had in years. It was subtle at first. Things like getting out of bed without that familiar weight of obligation pressing on my chest, sitting in my living room without feeling like I was supposed to be somewhere fixing something for someone else. I went to work, came home, cooked actual meals, read books I'd been meaning to finish. For the first time, my life felt like it belonged to me. The joint mortgage account was the last thing I touched. I logged in one final time, saw Amanda's payment reflected in full, and closed it. I removed the app from my phone, deleted the bookmarks. That account had tied me to them like a leash I didn't realize was there until it was gone. The second it disappeared, I felt lighter, like someone had taken 20 pounds off my shoulders. Nobody thanked me. Nobody reached out to reconcile. And honestly, that was part of the relief. I didn't want reconciliation. I didn't want a forced dinner or a thin apology that came with conditions. I wanted distance. I wanted space. And now, finally, I had it. I stopped talking about Amanda. I stopped replaying conversations in my head. I stopped explaining myself to people who nodded politely and then went back to laughing at her jokes. I pulled back from mutual friends too, the ones who never spoke up when Amanda made her little comments, the ones who knew exactly how much I'd done and still let the story tilt in her favor. Then something unexpected happened. I got an email from a name I barely recognized, a woman named Heather, who used to work with Amanda a few years back. She said she wasn't sure if she should be reaching out, but she'd heard some rumors and felt like I deserved a heads up. According to her, Amanda had been telling people, not just family but professional contacts too, that I'd stolen money from our parents, that I tried to sabotage the mortgage, that she had to step in at the last minute and save everything because I'd had some kind of mental breakdown and was making reckless financial decisions. Heather said she didn't believe it when she heard it, but others might. Amanda was careful about how she said it, always in confidence, never in writing, never in places where it could be traced back to her. It was quiet, surgical, designed to stick without leaving fingerprints. That's when something inside me shifted again. This wasn't just family drama anymore. Amanda wasn't just trying to win an argument. She was trying to erase me professionally, socially, completely. She wanted a version of reality where I wasn't just wrong, I was unstable. I didn't yell. I didn't call her. I didn't text anyone. I went to the grocery store and bought a bag of overripe tomatoes, the kind no one wants, bruised and soft and already starting to smell. That night, I parked 2 streets over from her place, hood up, lights off, engine quiet. Amanda's building sat on a clean, well-lit corner, all glass railings and spotless sidewalks, like a stage set. I knew it well. I'd helped her move in when she bought it, carried boxes up those stairs, hung her framed diplomas, stood in her kitchen while she poured champagne and told me I should aim higher. It was close to midnight. The bag of tomatoes sat on the passenger seat, warm from the trunk, smelling faintly of rot. I walked slow, head down, crossed behind the building through a gap in the shrubs. Her unit was second floor, corner window, no curtains. Amanda never saw the point in hiding. She liked to be seen. The first tomato hit hard against the glass and burst instantly, red pulp splattering across the window. I waited. Nothing. No lights. No movement. The second hit harder, smearing across the center and sliding down in a thick trail. Still nothing. I kept going. Tomato after tomato, each one bursting, staining, leaving a mess she couldn't ignore or spin. By the time I threw the last one, I wasn't angry. I was calm, focused. I didn't want to break anything. I wanted the mess, the stain, the loss of control. On the walk back to my car, I didn't rush. No one was watching. That part of town was dead quiet, just sprinklers and the occasional passing car. I sat in the driver's seat and looked at my hands, red spots on my knuckles, pulp on my sleeve. It made me laugh, a short, quiet sound. I wiped them off with a napkin and drove home. Amanda never said a word. Amanda never said anything about the tomatoes. No call, no text, no vague post about immaturity or jealousy. But I know she knew it was me. I'm sure she stood there the next morning staring at her spotless glass, scrubbing red streaks off the window, while trying to decide which version of me she was supposed to tell people about now. The unstable one, the jealous one, the cautionary tale she'd been carefully planting in private conversations. The rumors kept drifting back to me anyway, secondhand and soft-edged, like they were embarrassed to exist. Old classmates messaged to check in. A former coworker asked if I was doing okay, in that tone people use when they already believe the worst, but want to sound kind. Someone on LinkedIn sent a message asking if I was getting support. Apparently I'd been drinking heavily. Apparently I'd threatened Amanda. Apparently I'd had some sort of breakdown. None of it was true, but Amanda wasn't trying to convince me. She was trying to build a version of the story where my silence looked like guilt. I didn't correct it. I didn't defend myself. I let people believe whatever fit their need to simplify something they didn't want to understand. Amanda could keep her audience. I didn't need to win the narrative. I just needed out of it. 6 months passed, without a word from her. Nothing from my parents either. Even Eric stopped sending his half-hearted memes and links, like he finally understood there was no neutral ground left. In that time, I took a new job in Denver. I packed up my apartment quietly, sold what I didn't need, donated what I didn't want to carry forward, and left without a goodbye dinner or a dramatic post. I didn't announce anything. I just disappeared from the version of myself they thought they owned. Life slowed down in a way I hadn't realized I was craving. I woke up early because I wanted to, not because anxiety shoved me out of sleep. I cooked meals that weren't rushed. I hiked on weekends. I stopped bracing for texts that only arrived when someone needed something. Nobody called me selfish. Nobody asked me to fix anything. Nobody rewrote my past while I stood there swallowing it. Then, on a Tuesday night, an email landed in my inbox from a name I didn't recognize, a real estate agent from my hometown. The subject line read, "Property inquiry question about recent listing." I almost deleted it, assuming it was spam, but something made me open it. He wrote that he'd been hired to help sell my parents' house and needed clarification on a pre-sale disclosure. He said he didn't want to assume anything, but my name was still tied to the home's equity agreement, and he'd need my signature to proceed. I felt my stomach drop. I opened the attachment, and there it was, a clause I'd completely forgotten about, buried in the paperwork from when Amanda and I helped with the mortgage. If the house was ever sold, profits would be split based on contribution. Amanda and I had both signed it. At the time, it felt like a formality, something no one would ever need to think about again. Apparently, Amanda had thought otherwise. They were selling the house. My parents, probably pushed by Amanda, probably needing the cash, probably telling themselves this was the clean break they deserved. And now, because of that one quiet clause, they couldn't do it without me. I didn't respond right away. I sat with it for 3 days. I let myself imagine Amanda discovering this detail. The moment her confidence cracked when she realized the past wasn't as easy to erase as she'd thought. On the 4th day, I replied, I told the agent I'd be happy to sign, but only after receiving a full documented breakdown of the equity payout, along with bank verification that my share was transferred in full before closing. No delays, no promises, everything in writing. I hit send and closed my laptop. Somewhere in her glass and marble condo, Amanda was about to learn that control has a memory, that money leaves a trail, that the roles she assigned didn't overwrite the facts. I didn't need to confront her. I didn't need to explain myself one last time. All I needed was the truth, finally recorded in ink and numbers, the only language they ever respected. And for the first time since that cake on my birthday, I smiled without bitterness, knowing I'd already won by walking away.